In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about shift and trace. Traditional animators who are used to working with paper and pencil will often unpeg their drawings to trace off of them by using the lightbox on their drafting table to help keep the characters' volumes sound as they animate. Now, Harmony has a feature called Shift and Trace, which replicates this experience, and it's one of my personal favorite tools in Harmony. First, let's make sure your Shift and Trace toolbar is showing. Mine is not currently. And we can do that by right-clicking on any available gray space up here, right-clicking, and dropping down to Shift and Trace. And mine is over here. Let's reposition it so you can see it a little more clearly, and I'll move it out so we can see it a little more clearly like that. So let's talk about each of the tools. The first button here along our Shift and Trace toolbar is the actual tool itself, and if I click it, you'll see that a bounding box has just appeared. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see. Let's click that Shift and Trace tool again. You'll see a bounding box has appeared around our character. And you may also notice down here is a peg bar shaped icon for any old school traditional animators out there who may recognize this. And we can either click the middle peg here, or we can click anywhere within the image itself to shift the character around. We can either use these handles down here to rotate it around the pivot of our imaginary peg bar, if you will. We can also use this pivot here in the center to allow us to place the pivot anywhere we may need. So for example, around her, let's just say her chin there. And now we can use this little handlebar over here that you may see on the side, and we can use this to rotate the drawing around our new pivot, like so. If you hover over on any of these blue corners, you'll notice that the icon changes, allowing us to scale it up and down, and as we already talked about, we can move it around the screen. One thing I'd like to point out immediately before moving forward, this should not be confused with the transform tool over here. None of what we do here is permanent. Nothing is animatable here. It is solely for the purpose of us to, well, shift and then eventually trace the image off. So let's move forward, shall we? With that being said, this next button over here along our Shift and Trace toolbar will toggle it on and off. So we can use this as we work to check our results, see how it's looking, and then turn it back on again to, again, just to check our volumes and see how things are going. I'm keeping it way over here just for the sake of clarity. Our third button over here will add crosshairs to our Shift and Trace. Let's zoom back in a little bit. Okay, so here's our crosshairs, and you may see that our icon has changed here. So when I click, you'll notice that not only did it add a crosshair here in the current drawing I am on, but also over here in our previous drawing. Now the purpose of the crosshairs is just to give us a visual frame of reference of just how far we may have shifted this particular drawing. And I can add as many as I want for you know, the sake of argument here. I'll put 4 in. And to reiterate, they are simply just to give us a visual frame of reference of where we have moved it. So if I turn it off by clicking it again, and if I move our character, you can see exactly just how far we've moved our drawing from. Now the next button next to it is the exact same thing, but has a little negative up there, you may notice. That's the clear crosshairs, and when I click that, I think it's kind of self-explanatory. All of our crosshairs clear from the image. Let's talk about our next one here. The next icon would be to reset the Shift and Trace of a particular drawing. So I only have one selected right now. So if I hit that, it resets our Shift and Trace, puts it back to where it found it. And we can, for the next one, I'm going to randomly move the stuff around, just again for the sake of so you folks can see. I'm just kind of randomly moving things around. So now we have our drawings shifted and traced all over the camera view here. The next and final button on our toolbar will reset all of our shift and trace to put everything back to where it found it. So to see this in practice, let's use our onion skin. Turning it off, I have a very light, faint outline of where I think my character is going to go in this frame. I'm going to turn my onion skin on. I'm going to look at let's look at the previous drawing here. I'll zoom in just a little bit. And let's even pull our onion skin opacity down just a hair. There we go. So just pretty faint, but I have an idea of where, say, her head will be. We'll turn our shift and trace toolbar on. And I'm going to shift this particular drawing, and I can see already that her head size is pretty off model. It's not exactly in the right place. So now that we have our drawing shifted, I can switch over to my brush. Let's pick a color of that looks pretty good. Let's erase that. And now that we have our drawing shifted, we can just trace off of our original, pull it a little bit more on model. And maybe she's even like rotating her dead head down slightly a bit more. Maybe drop her nose a bit. And for the sake of demonstration, I won't belabor this drawing. And maybe the hood of a raincoat will come up just a little bit, but I have the reference point of the one behind it, giving me a clue of where to go. And her hair can maybe come up a little bit too as she's starting to come down. And now maybe I want to check this, so I can toggle it using this second button over here. Again, if you just hover over top of any particular tool, you'll get a tooltip giving you an idea of what it does. We'll toggle it off, and I can cycle back and forth. And she's looking okay. Let's toggle it back on again, and switch back. Our brush is still there, very good. And like that. That should do for a quick demonstration. Let's turn our shift and trace off. And not too bad. Let's zoom out. We're in pretty tight there. That'll be more like it, 100%. There we go. And so that's how we use shift and trace on a piece of animation. Again, one of my favorite tools in Harmony. I hope you enjoyed as well.